Welcome to the morning stream here on the Den of Nerds Live. The very best way to start your nerdy day. On today's show, we're talking about how Venom 2 was delayed and given a new title. A lot of signs point to Spider-Man 3 also being delayed, so we will go over the general delays of Marvel movies and what we can expect after all this craziness is over. Trinity from 2nd Street Marvel joins the show, and together we're going to be discussing the plot leaks and reports coming out for The Batman. I'm also going to ask Trinity if he thinks I'm being too hard on Matt Reeves' The Batman. We're also going to talk about comic books. What are the must-read comics for your quarantine? Well, Trinity is the man to let you know. We're going over all of that and more. Let's start the stream. Good morning, good morning, good morning, all of you beautiful nerds from around the world. How are we doing today? It's another day, another show, man. Should be a spicy one for you folks today. Very excited to be talking about some Venom stuff. Possibility of Spider-Man 3 being delayed. It's kind of a bummer, but we'll get into it. I want to talk about it a little bit because YouTube buried our video yesterday. I might rant just a little bit. About YouTube and their ridiculous-ass systems. But I see a bunch of beautiful people in here. How are we all doing, man? Mike Porter's in the building. Captain Pennsylvania, Wu-Tang Wells, Will Morgan, Jacob's Quest. Dude, Jacob, so you're here early today, bro. Gray Dawn, Jason, Stormbreaker, Trev. I need more chicken nuggets. Ray-ho! Star Wars Santa, David Fuller. Ran away, Papa Josh. Man, I would have ran away, but you know, it's one of these really interesting situations where you want to rant real hard on YouTube, but they're like this. They're this, I would say, almost borderline evil corporation that does technically have a lot of our well-being as a company and as a brand is attached to Reho. Man, yeah, that's my total horrible mispronunciation of your name. Where's our rage meter? You know what? Thank you for reminding me. Rage meter. I'm writing it down. That was something that should have been done a while ago. I felt like we were working on that. We never got it. Chet, what's up with the rage meter, baby? Ooh, this is a nice little beat here. It's a little kind of groovy situation in the studio here. How are you all doing? How's everybody doing out there? Josh is hulking out. I might hulk out today, man. I was hulking out yesterday. June says 2021 might be the best comic book movie year ever. Hey, that might actually be. It's primed and ready for a lot of juicy stuff. So, folks, Trinity should be joining. The hair is fire. No, the hair is ridiculous is what the hair is. The hair is getting out of control. This is my quarantine haircut. I was actually going to bring this up when Trinity comes on in a little bit because I'm super jealous of his hair. His hair doesn't seem to be affected by the quarantine at all. You know what I mean? Hair does not seem to be affected by the quarantizzle. And so I'm super jealous of that. Folks, if you're watching this on Twitch, if you're watching this on Facebook, what is going on? And welcome to the show. We'll be streaming every day, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you want to join the conversation of stuff that you see scrolling on the screen, you're going to want to go to our YouTube channel, The Den of Nerds Live. Look it up. That's where most of us hang out. So if you're watching over there, no worries. If you want to be involved with the big chat over there, that's how you do it. And if folks at home, if you want to help us out, check out the Facebook page, the Twitch. Share the Facebook stream into big comic book groups or onto your timeline. It does help us out. The more people we hit on these different platforms, the better it is. All right, let's get into this first little bit here. Chat, pause the music. Pause the music. Thank you. We've got to talk about the news. That's still technically the craziest news of the day, even though it came out yesterday. It's the craziest news of the day. Yo, this news is crazy. That's right, folks. Venom 2. It gets an official title, and it gets delayed. Now, we went over this a little bit on the main channel. I did a video yesterday. Some of you saw it. Again, that video got decimated. on YouTube, and I think I know why, which I might rant about in just a little bit. But again, many of you probably didn't see our coverage of it, so we want to go over it today on the live show. Coming in from The Hollywood Reporter, the superhero pick is the latest Hollywood tentpole movie out of 2020 because of the Rona. Sony is pushing back its Venom sequel to release from this fall to summer of 2021. Remember that Green Day song, Wake Me Up When September Ends? It's like, wake me up when 2020 ends. Seriously, this isn't fun anymore. The date formerly occupied by Warner Brothers' Batman reboot is now where Venom's going to be. Batman gets delayed, and now Venom 2 is taking the Batman thing. Well, it's wild. It's absolutely wild. Sony announced its most recent change 24 hours after Warner Brothers postponed the bow of Matt Reeves' The Batman. Okay, pretty crazy stuff. Now, another aspect to this is, of course, well, doesn't this mean Spider-Man 3 will move as well? All signs point to yes. Now, technically, that is a Sony movie. Sony controls a lot of the decisions when it comes to this, but it's also being produced by Kevin Feige. So they're in sort of a weird spot, folks. Because they not only have to figure out when they're going to delay that Spider-Man movie too, but they have to figure out how that will tie into what Kevin Feige is doing. Because if you didn't realize this, Kevin Feige is sort of a busy man. So that's the official news when it comes to Venom. Now, take me back into the chatting chat. Let's go back in. Let's chat with the folks. Let's talk about some of the things going on here. Why we actually believe that it'll probably delay Spider-Man 3 as well. And let's talk a little bit about the industry. And you know what? I'm just going to speak freely here. My main takeaway here, guys, is that, we're getting these delays. Hollywood is trying to set stuff up for the future, and they're trying to, think about when we will go back to normal, what that will look like, and trying to make some decisions. I think that's great. A sense of normalcy, a sense of stability, I think it's awesome. However, personally, my feelings on this as far as how accurate it is, guys, I wouldn't take any of these dates to the bank. There are many things that could happen that would essentially change even these dates again. We're all operating under the impression that, hey, things are going to be fine. In the next couple of months, things are going to be normal, things are going to be fine. What I want you to do as a thought experiment is think back to 3 months ago. What were your thoughts then about how things were going to proceed? And yesterday we did this video. I'm going to rant just a little bit. Because honestly, this is what's so crazy about this. I can't even fully express how I'm feeling about this, how I'm talking about this, because the YouTube algorithm bots are out with snipers. Yesterday we did a video talking about how Venom 2 was delayed. That video gets absolutely buried on YouTube. I'm sitting there, I'm looking at the numbers. I'm like, this doesn't make sense. Some of my, colleagues, fellow YouTubers, fellow dirty YouTubers out there, they're talking about Venom 2 being delayed, and their videos are doing fine. I'm like, well, what's going on here? I reset it. I uploaded it again. It gets buried on YouTube again. The only thing I can think of, the only thing that made sense to me as far as why that video got buried, is because I was talking about stuff when it comes to the Rona. Now, here's the deal, folks. I thought we were past this shit. I thought, YouTube was going to sort of put its restrictive clause into people that were talking about the virus and the pandemic and everything. I understood that when things were first popping off, because you want to take the disinformation down, and you want to help people know where reliable info is. You want to slow down the spread of crazy talks and conversations when it comes to things. I totally get it. But I thought we were past that shit. You know what I mean? The only explanation that I can have for why the video yesterday got crushed as it did in the algorithm is because I was openly talking about things like vaccines, things like a second wave, things that YouTube does not want you to be talking about. And so I shouldn't even be talking about it right now. So let me try to explain what I meant and what I think about this whole situation. We have this idea and concept that, November is going to roll around and we're going to see Black Widow. The beginning of next year is going to roll around. We're going to start seeing all these other things. We'll see Eternals in the first quarter of next year. We're doing all this stuff. Take everything you think you know. Take everything you think you know about when these dates are going to come out and do this. Throw it out the window. You don't know. And we don't know. Sorry, Chet. I didn't mean to get you wet with that water bottle. I'm just so frustrated. You know what I mean? I'm just a little bit frustrated about how things are going on this lovely platform that we call YouTube. So, look, on the positive side of this thing, there's actually a lot of good that could come out of this. This could potentially help them fine-tune a lot of different things when it comes to when these releases are coming out. But what I'm telling you guys is this. My take on it is this. This is what the dates are for now. I think it is still possible that things are delayed in the future. There is still a lot of uncertainty unfolding in the world currently about what will be going on when the economy opens back up. And I hope, gracious YouTube gods of censorship and horse shit, that it's okay in America to talk about that on a platform where I am exercising my freedom of expression. I hope that's okay. Maybe not. Maybe not. But I hope it's okay. But in either case, folks, we're going to be bringing in Trinity from 2nd Street Marvel, and we're going to be talking about some Batman stuff. So give me just 1 second here as I bring in Trinity from 2nd Street Marvel. Chet, pause the music. No, yeah. We gotta pause the music. And then we're gonna bring Trinity in. Trinity, are you there?
Yes, how's it going?
Good, man. How are you?
Doing well. I can't complain. It's a beautiful morning here in Southern California.
That's awesome, man. That's good to hear, man. I'm sure it is beautiful. Isn't it like kind of always beautiful in Southern California? Isn't that kind of like the whole thing?
I wish I could say that was true, but over the past couple weeks, it's been a mishmash. It's springtime, and we don't normally get springtime here. Usually, it's a mix of summer and fall.
Okay, gotcha. I'm trying to get your video up. I'm having like an issue here. I think people can hear you though. Chat, can you hear Trinity okay? Yeah, I think they can hear you. Yeah. Well, we've got the video. We'll get it sorted out. Yeah, so did you hear people are saying you were making fun of my hair in the chat. Is this true?
Me? Make fun of your hair?
Yeah, that's what people were saying.
I would do no such thing like that and make fun of people's hair. These are things that people can't change about themselves. Oh wait, no, that's me being bald.
True. I was saying earlier in the show, I was like, man, I was going to tell Trinity, I was like, one of the things I'm super jealous of is that his hair style does not seem to be affected at all by Corona, which is awesome.
No, it's thank you, Dollar Shave Club.
Nice.
No, I wasn't paid to promote them.
Nice. Yeah. I've heard Dollar Shave Club does good stuff, man. Maybe someday they would work with us as well. Yeah, sorry guys, I'm having like a weird issue here. We're trying to get the video for Trinity. We'll get it sorted out. But just bear with me for just 1 second. I'm actually not even sure. There's always something, man. It's always something when you go live. It's like I don't get it. You know, I'm gonna have to do a thing here real quick. But while I'm trying to sort that out, would you like to give me just like your baseline thoughts about this Batman movie. We're going to talk about this scoop that came out from Fandom Wire yesterday. I'm really interested that they continue to report about this with sources. But before we get into the report at all, you've seen sort of my feelings and sort of my take on the Batman, and I'm less enthused and I'm less excited about it than I think a lot of other people are. But my question to you, man, is do you think I'm being like unfair? And what's your take on the Batman?
Absolutely. I don't think you're being unfair at all. I mean, honestly, look at the history of Batman on film, and let me know if there's any audience member out there who should be 100% confident in Warner Brothers and what they're going to bring to screen with Batman. I mean, we started off with like the big screen Batmans, and we had the Adam West stuff back in like what was that, 70s. But then through the 80s, Batman 89 with Michael Keaton, and rolling on through there, nobody was looking forward to it. Everybody was upset about it. Michael Keaton casting and all this stuff. And then we got a couple of great movies, and then it started to get campy and started to go off the rails. Then we come back with, the Nolan Batmans, and they came back and they did, a pretty good job. They're not my favorite of the Batmans. As a matter of fact, my ranking list goes how they came out: 1, 2, 3.
Oh, nice.
And so those came out, and then all of a sudden we get we move into Batfleck, and now into into the new Matt Reeves Batman, and it's just they just haven't hit the mark. Like, they've done good jobs, but it seems like every single time it ends up ending in sadness.
Yeah.
Kind of a wrecked franchise, and I think it's shaken a lot of people's confidence. I know, like, somebody like me, I love Ben Affleck's Batman. I thought it was great. I would have loved to see more of it. I'm not upset at Robert Pattinson. I'm ready to see that. And I guess that's really the big thing. Is it seems like Warner Brothers with their series of Batman movies is just, maybe it'll start off high, but then it just peaks too soon and starts to go downhill.
Yeah, no, dude, I'm with you, man. I feel like I felt like the Nolan stuff was cool, but it didn't really feel. It felt like more of a movie interpretation of Batman than like watching like the Batman comic realized. Do you know what I mean? And like I feel like that's kind of their thing. Now it totally worked for the Nolan stuff. The Nolan stuff was great. Like I really enjoyed it, but I don't know if that's gonna work again. And it almost seems like Matt Reeves' plan, from like my perspective, is he's trying to do a Nolan-esque thing, but sort of still make it his own. And I'm just concerned, man. Like I don't like this whole like, let's deconstruct these characters, let's sort of make these characters make sense in the modern day. Like, that's not exactly what I like about comic book characters in general, right? I like the bombastic nature. And like when it comes to the MCU, it feels like you're watching the comics. It feels like you're watching the comic book characters on the screen rather than like watching a movie interpretation of the comic book characters. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm still at with Matt Reeves as the Batman. There's a lot of different things that we've been hearing that kind of make me sort of feel pretty confident that my concerns are at least not based on nothing. You know what I mean? Like, there's stuff that he's saying. There's even stuff in this Fandom Wire article, like particularly about the Catwoman suit, which made me again just kind of think like, man, like, we're really doing this. Like, this is really what we want to do with the Batman, and I'm just not sure it's jiving with what I would like for an interpretation of the Batman. But we'll get into a little bit of the scoop from Fandom Wire as I continue to try to figure out how to put you onto the screen. But so basically, yesterday, an article came out. Andy Signor, who has a working relationship with Fandom Wire now, did a scoop, and he's actually been doing a couple of DC scoops lately. He had a scoop we actually talked about yesterday, I believe, about the Flash movie and their plans to sort of reboot that way, which, fine, sounds cool to me. But he did a scoop yesterday about a plot for the Batman that was released. And, I guess a slight spoiler warning to folks at home that might want to go in completely empty. I don't think this is anything major. And it does sort of corroborate some of the Reddit leaks that came out as well. But essentially, he talked about how the main conflict in the movie, the main driving force of the plot, is going to involve a new election. It's an election year. And the election year is going to revolve also around some sort of terroristic attacks that essentially different candidates for mayor are going to be either assassinated or terrorized by the Riddler. And that the film is really going to focus sort of on a detective tale where Batman tries to discover the secrets and the riddles that the Riddler is doing with this election. And there's a couple of other things that we'll get into as well. But Trinity, why don't you give me like sort of your baseline thoughts about that? Do you think that's a cool way to do the Batman movie?
I was watching that video that Andy Senior did. I thought I don't know. It sounds like an interesting take. I mean, the thing is, like, we kind of need something new for a Batman film, but at the same time, like, he kind of has, while he's got a lot of oh dang, what happened here? He's got a lot of his rogues gallery of characters, but it seems like we've seen most of them all before. And the thing is, if when you're doing these things, if you want to honor these characters, you got to respect the source material. So you can't really change things as far as that's concerned. And you just got to tell a new story, maybe one that hasn't been told before. And I think that seems to be the problem with a lot of things when we get into, if you're going to do reboots and things like that. But this, I don't know. I thought it sounded pretty interesting. I think the leak was talking about Cobblepot possibly running for mayor and some of those kinds of things. I thought that all sounds very interesting. Definitely a great dynamic to bring in like characters like that, where you have one guy being a bad guy, one villain who we know is being a villain, being brought in as a politician. I guess you can't say necessarily a good guy, but
Right.
being looked at as a good guy. And then, obviously that change will come later in a future movie where we see that all kind of flesh out, I would guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. It sounds very interesting. With everything going on right now, it's hard to say what's legit and what's not. You know what I mean? Because people have time on their hands now, so you got time to craft more theories or plot leaks or anything like that.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a good point. It's funny because I think one of the newest things, and now I've even lost my video, so like Chet is definitely getting fired today. But one of the things that I have been finding pretty interesting within the sort of lockdown quarantine is how interesting the plot leaks and different things have been out there. And it seems like the new thing that people are doing is claiming that they saw an Instagram post from a potential actor or somebody involved, you know what I mean, with a property, and then it was like instantly deleted. So this seems to be a new thing that the people are doing. Somebody did it with Tom Holland. Somebody did it with the Venom 2 trailer and Andy Serkis. Everybody thought that we were going to get that trailer, and it obviously didn't happen, right? But when it comes to this movie and this scoop, this actually does correlate with a couple of plot leaks that came out for the Batman. And, the whole idea of it being surrounded by, with this election and the mayor, I think that's cool. It's a different take than the Long Hot Halloween. So the Long Hot Halloween, it's every month is a different holiday. And the book takes place over a sort of longer period of time, and you get to see the evolution of this long-form story. This movie it looks like it's going to be taking place over some time, but probably what it's an actual election cycle. And so, month by month, different things will be happening with the election for mayor. And this is sort of a big deal. And I do find it pretty interesting that that's the direction that they're going to go. And let me just ask you sort of the obvious question that most of the internet will probably yell and freak out about. do you think that this is literally too political, like way too on the nose political, with them making the plot surround an election?
I don't. I don't think that. I don't think that it's like that. And like I do. I knew where you're kind of going with that. I know you're right. We will see a lot of people screaming and ranting about this because I'm sure it's gonna come politics and all this kinds of stuff because we don't want politics in our comic book
It's
movies,
woke
right?
man. It's woke
Um,
man. Yeah, just wait
yeah.
for the videos. It's coming.
um, Now, the thing is like a lot of these properties, comic books and things like that, have all kind of revolved around things going on in our lives, in the world, as far as politics and things like that. So I don't think it's a bad thing. I think really what it comes down to in most cases is how it's done, not that it's done. And there's a way to storytelling to tell stories like that where you leave it open ended. You leave somebody thinking about what's going on in this situation. Um, a good writer doesn't have to put any kind of political sway one way or another. They kind of leave it open for interpretation for you to think about. So I think if they do the story the right way, I think it's definitely a good thing. People out there saying they don't want politics and the comic books and all that stuff. A lot of these things are just due to it's not your politics, it's somebody else's that you don't agree with.
Right. Right.
And that's not necessarily a bad thing because as with all things, you need balance. There does need to be I guess if you will, some left, some right. There should be a balance, even if it's more to one side than the other. It's always going to be that way because somebody always has the quote unquote power.
Right.
But I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. And if anything, I think it could be really fun if it's done in the right way.
Yeah, no, dude, I tend to agree. I think there's an opportunity, and I'm thinking of so Sean Gordon Murphy, his initial run on White Knight, and I know you're not a huge DC reader. I'm not either, actually. You know what I mean? I started out more as a DC reader than anything, and then sort of gravitated towards Marvel over the past like 10 years or so. But I don't know if you ever read his initial run on White Knight, but I thought Sean Gordon Murphy did a great job of sort of taking shots at the absurdity of both sides in a political sense. Like, even the title White Knights is seemingly like a dig at certain, ideologies and stuff, right? But it's it's
Yeah.
it's done really well, like in a way that I think you can tell. Oh, here's sort of a shot to maybe the political conservative crowd. Here's sort of a shot to the liberal crowd. Um, but overall, the quality of the story was really great, and so I'd like to believe that that could be accomplished in a Batman movie as well. But I think that for all of the gripes and the sort of bitching and moaning that I hear from people about politics um, online, there is a thread of truth there. As far as the fact that Hollywood's just not the best arbiter of those sort of lessons. They tend to be heavy-handed, just sort of eye rolly with a lot of that stuff, and sometimes it just feels inorganic. So I could potentially see some of that seeping into the movie itself, but my concerns are more with just the sort of postmodern take on Batman himself. Now, what do you think about the Riddler as a main villain? Because we know this is a trilogy, essentially, this is supposed to be a trilogy. Do you think that doing it with the Riddler as the first villain is a good idea, or should they have maybe gone with a different villain? What do you think?
Um, I kind of feel like they're going with the Riddler because they need somebody new as a main character. The whole we obviously did like the whole Joker thing. They've done that a couple of times. We've also got a Penguin, and those were like larger roles along with Catwoman as well. And then just throughout all these series so far, obviously we had Bane in the Dark Knight Rises, but I think they need a new focus, a new foe to bring in for these for the films. And is it the best choice? Probably not, because we all know that Joker seems to be the, the main Batman villain, and seems to be the way that everybody wants to go every time. But I think they've got to do something to switch it up. And I don't know. I would say I'm looking forwad to it, though. And plus Paul Dano's a good actor as
Dude, Paul
well to
Dano's
play this
great.
role. But
Yeah, Paul.
yeah,
Yeah, he's great. So like, yeah, all signs point to it. At least being really well acted, probably. So yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on that one. I think Riddler's an interesting choice. I think it's potentially great for that sort of noir setup that they're trying to do, where he is trying to sort of uncover, this mystery. And I do like Jeffrey Wright a lot, and the leak sort of points to Gordon and Batman having a pretty much sidekick, Sherlock Holmes and Watson type relationship where they're literally like going through this and figuring that out. So, I mean, look, I'll be honest with you. The plot leak I thought was actually sort of shifted me a little bit more positively about it because, for one thing, as you sort of touched on this, but like bringing in the Penguin as a good guy that might end up that he is running for mayor, but he might end up being made mayor. That's really interesting and could pay off later as well. But I think that this could be potentially a cool intro into what I would eventually really, really like as my Batman. If he gets a little bit more mature, a little bit more technologically advanced, and goes a little bit more to the Batman that I like from the comics, I think I'd be a little more comfortable with it. But let me ask you this, and then we'll move on to some comic book talk. What do you think about the possibility of this Batman hanging out with the rest of the Justice League? Because a big sort of rumor out there is that with this Flashpoint thing that DC and Warner Brothers is trying to do, you're going to actually have Pattinson Batman hanging out with like Gal Gadot, Wonder Woman, Jason Momoa. Do you think that from what you've seen of Pattinson, do you think that plays? Do you think that works? Like him playing with the rest of the DCEU? What do you think about that?
I've got to be honest that that it sounds like a bad idea. It
Yeah.
sounds like a bad idea. You've got this. You've already got basically Batfleck kind of established in this lore, and they're even if you're doing this crossover event and stuff like that, it's an alternate reality. It just I don't I don't necessarily know that that plays very well. I think audiences would accept it and things like that. Plenty of people will be mad about it. Some people will be happy. Some people won't care. The normies won't care. Like me, when it comes to like the DC universe, I'm definitely more of a normie. I mean, like I know the core of these characters, but for me, it just sounds like a bad idea.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see how they do it and play it out if they do that, but it doesn't sound like a very good idea to me.
Yeah, I gotta be honest with you. Dude, I'm with you there. I don't know what frustrates me more, like the fact that I'm like thinking that this Batman is this very special vein of Batman. It's this version of Batman that I'm personally not that pumped about. Right? It just seems like okay, they want to deconstruct, they want to go back to postmodern, they want to do all that. I'm not that into it. But then you take the more bombastic, crazy side of DCEU with Wonder Woman and Aquaman, and you want to stick them with this Batman. Now, I it's almost like what I'm asking. Like, you know what I mean? Like in my previous like videos and coverage of it, I was like, no, Batman's cool because he can hang out with gods and amazing, powerful people, and he's still able to be Batman and be a badass. But it just really feels like a mismatch, like stylistically, story wise, like the whole deal. It feels like such a mismatch, man. I can't see this Batman who's literally wearing hockey pads and has the fins on his armor are made of like burlap and like belts essentially. That Batman is gonna hang out with Wonder Woman in the all gold armor. You know what I mean? Like it just seems like such a weird mismatch. I don't think it works, man. I don't think that Batman plays in DC's current world. But hey, who knows? I could be wrong, I guess.
No, no. I think everything you're saying there. I mean, sounds right. Sounds right to me. That's kind of where we're at right now with things. Is they're in a spot where they don't know what they're doing. like they've got all these pieces and nowhere to go with them really. They got to do something and try to assemble them all together. But it's not turning out too good so far. It doesn't look like.
Right. Well, let's transition into some comic book talk, man. I know you are an aficionado of the comic book industry and of the comic book world. And I wanted to ask you, we were sort of talking in Twitter private messages yesterday. I know you've done so many different videos about must reads for quarantine. And situations like that. So I didn't want to make you sort of retread that, but you had sort of said you're sort of happy to do that for people. What do you think, man? Give us your baseline here of if people are wanting to just jump into comic books, they've never really read comic books before. What would be your sort of starter or appetizer platter? And then what are some great books you think people should read during quarantine?
Well, first I would say, find out what you want to read. Okay. Cause like, it seems like the market is for the most part dominated by the big two, by Marvel and DC. So you're looking at superheroes. So if that's what you want, go out there and find a superhero that you like. Find a Spider-Man, find a Captain America, find an Iron Man, find a Batman. A lot of these characters have multiple runs and books titles going on at the same time, so you can kind of find something to fit your need of what you want to see. If there's something that's current that you don't like reading a current run of, like maybe you don't like the current iteration of Captain America, go back and read some of the old Captain Americas. You can check some of those out on like the digital services if you can't get into local comic shops to pick those up. There are a lot of great books out there as far as superheroes are concerned. There are obviously indie publishers and everything out there that are kind of building their own universes with superheroes as well. We all know like Valiant Comics has been around for a while, kind of building a world out there. But the bigger two seem to obviously be Marvel and DC. One of my favorite ones kind of got me back into reading comics anyway was this one right here. I've actually been reading and I'm getting ready to drop some videos talking about this one, but this is Avengers Standoff, Assault on Pleasant Hill.
Nice.
The reason I'm doing this one is, I mean, you can see right there on the cover kind of the main characters here in this story. And I'm kind of covering this because it's got some very interesting things on here that I think could possibly play into future MCU movies, considering what happens in here is almost a place of almost where we're at in the MCU right now. And it's very interesting. And as I've been going through this and reading it, like I'm sitting there rereading it. I'm like, man, like now I know why I like this story so much, because it's very interesting. Just all the different moving pieces that they have here, and then where it all ends up. By the time this leads into Civil War II, then Civil War II leads into Secret Empire,
Yeah.
and that all leads to everything that's going on right now in Marvel Comics, which a couple years ago after that ended is when a lot of the characters kind of came back into the more classic forms, and that's one of the things that kind of got me back into reading comic books.
Yeah, cool, man. Cool.
Yeah.
So let me ask you just a little bit about that, because so just from the title, it looks like that's Ironheart, that's Lady Thor, that's Captain America with Sam Wilson, and then there's an old man Steve Rogers, right?
Yeah.
And so this
well, the Iron Man in here is actually Iron Man. It's actually still Tony Stark at this point.
Okay, gotcha. So cool. So you're saying that you think that because some of these characters and changes are coming to Marvel, technically we have old man Steve, even though he's kind of, out of the picture. Sam is becoming Cap. Jane is gonna become Thor, and there's the possibility of Ironheart. But you're sort of seeing that like this is sort of where the MCU is at right now, and you think that like Feige and the MCU might sort of take some beats from the story and put that into the movies.
Definitely, because there's like I said, we got Falcon here playing the Captain America role. We do have Jane Foster, Thor in here. Again, Steve Rogers is an old man here. We do still have Tony Stark here, but after this storyline, that soon changes once we get into Civil War II. And there's a lot of things that happen in this time that are really interesting, because even after this event happens, we see just all the things that happen after Standoff play into things that are kind of in the MCU right now. Really, like I said, obviously we got some of these different characters. We've got the Thunderbolts who come in here. You got new Avengers that are part of this. Coming out of this storyline, Natasha Romanoff ends up being killed by Steve Rogers.
Interesting.
So there's just a whole lot of different things where I could see where they could take, kind of like they do already, is they take and they pick things out of the comic books to put into the movies, not necessarily doing direct adaptations of it. A lot of the things leading up to this event and then even afterward really do lead me to believe that that's where maybe not in phase 4 or phase 5, but I'm thinking maybe by the end of phase 5 going into phase 6, is this where we could end up being at?
Nice, dude. I love that. I love that. So So I got a two-part question coming at you here because this kind of just it makes me think because I think we're both aware, and one of the things that I love about your content is that you're not caught up in the sort of narrative, battles out there and what people like to say about these characters. But having said that, the reputation for this time period in Marvel Comics with these new characters was that this was like a horrible, horrible thing in Marvel Comics, right? And that there's just nothing but bad stories here, that these characters are uninteresting. And this is carried over to the belief from a lot of MCU fans that it's like, hey, I don't want them to do this part of Marvel Comics. I don't want to adapt it into the movies, right? Like Lady Thor, Sam Wilson, I think it was all new, all new Marvel or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all new, all different, I think was what it was. But
Mhm.
essentially that is bad, right? So two-part question to you. Do you think that these books, and obviously you're recommending this story, but do you think that a lot of that was bullcrap and that there's actually a lot of good stories that were told during this time period? And then number two, why do you think Feige is so keen on doing this, even though there is that at least vocal group of people out there that are saying this was a bad time in Marvel Comics? What do you think?
Well, I do think there are a lot of people who don't like these some of these stories and everything going on right here. And I totally get that because like when I read Captain America, Sam Wilson, Captain America, and I read that I was kind of like I don't really necessarily like that series. Like the everything that happens is kind of cool, but like some of it when I read it, it's like the Sam Wilson stuff, a lot of it is literally like stuff we've seen during the election cycle, ripped right off of CNN, just kind of translated into the Marvel universe and put into a comic book. Some of that stuff to me is a little bit lazy on the storytelling side. Like, they didn't really change it up much.
Mm.
But what I do like is the dynamic that they use to tell the stories. Now, I do understand and I get where people don't like some of these characters where they did change a lot of classic characters. And that completely makes sense to me because when we've got these classic characters that people have loved for years, for years. I mean, longer than I've been alive, people have loved a lot of these characters. So I understand people being upset by that. And that's kind of what I like about the stories where we see all of these things kind of starting to intersect and really clash, and then it kind of explodes, and then the world comes back to normal. And that's what I like about these stories. Now, I don't necessarily like everything that happens in these stories. So with just some of the writing and everything, but how it all ended up turning out ended up actually being pretty good. There are some of these books that have things in them like, yeah, maybe it's a little too political or politically slanted one way or the other. But that really kind of goes with just about any story, really. They are supposed to they're supposed to tell a story that the author wants to tell. But they should always be thought provoking and done in that sort of way.
Yeah.
Now, as far as going into the MCU, why I think Kevin Feige would want to do this is because there are good stories here. We obviously know that drama sells, and just everything that's kind of happened within the MCU, it's kind of what it's leading to in the first place. Is it's almost where you got to go to one up what they've already done through these first three phases of movies into the through Civil War, Infinity War, and Endgame. You're gonna have to up that ante, and the way to do that is to bring even more drama in. Obviously through here we've got more of the heroes at odds with each other than they are at odds with the villains. Where the line starts to gray there, which I think is something that's very true in our world altogether. And the way that it's all done here, I think really works out. And I think most of us know that we can trust in Kevin Feige to do things better on screen than maybe what we got in the comic books with some of this stuff. Not all the time, but a lot of the times.
Damn, dog. I gotta be honest with you. That was like the best possible answer. I was like, I wonder how he's gonna handle this two-part question, and you fucking nailed it. Nice, dude. That I think that you're so spot on. And again, this is why like I really like your content, and I just respect you as a content creator because it's like you're not afraid to acknowledge the obvious problems and the things that were too on the nose, and I think that politically, yeah, it was probably the wrong time. It was weird because I think that in a lot of ways that sort of political stuff has always been around, but after 2016, it was kind of like everybody was just hypersensitive to it, and I think that it was sort of a mistake to lean into it the way that maybe some of these stories did. But I like what you're saying about how there's good stuff there still, even in spite of that, right? And so, despite there being a lot of lazy stuff in there, there's good stuff. The only one that I've really delved into heavily is the Jason Aaron stuff with Lady Thor and Odinson. And I felt like that was a very interesting, very good book. The relationship and the just the ebb and flow between those two characters was pretty interesting. I've heard good stuff about Old Man Steve and Sam Wilson and how their dynamic is really interesting. But I think that you're spot on by saying like, yeah, there's stuff there that we can acknowledge was sort of an issue. Maybe not the best way to handle it, but there's good stuff, and you don't just want to leave it alone. I do find it interesting that Feige is seemingly really focused on telling these stories and telling stories with these characters that were traditionally looked down upon in the comics. And I can't help but think that what he wants to do is do a better version of it, right? And that part of his whole thing is to sort of take those character stories and the ideas that the comic book writers were working with and do it in a much better way. Because I think, frankly, like Feige's way of doing things is way better than some of these other writers that are so heavy-handed and maybe don't even care. Like they might honestly not even care that they're offending certain people and that they're being preachy in these certain points. I think it's some people are true to point out that maybe these writers and these editors and some of the people at Marvel do not care. Well, everything we've seen of Feige in the MCU so far is kind of shows that he does care. He cares about both. Right? Like I always make the analogy where he gives the toys to everybody, right? So he gives the toys to these type of fans and he gives the toys to these type of fans. And I think that his interpretation and what he chooses to do with these characters could be much better than what we've seen in their comic book versions. And then I'm also interested in what he might be doing with that same mentality in mind with comics moving forward, because now essentially all creative hits his desk, including comics. And I'm wondering, as somebody who reads a lot of comics, have you seen anything that you could say points to a change maybe by Feige stepping in? And if not, what changes do you anticipate coming to Marvel Comics because things are hitting his desk now?
Well, I don't really see much changing. Like they've had books that cross over from the movies and things like that anyway. But for me, I would say that they need to do something with some of the comic books to bring in the movie audiences. And maybe that is actually doing a universe that is actually maybe canon to the MCU, and also make it to where you don't have to read it. But if you do read it, you know just a little bit more than what you would know. If as far as those things coming across his desk and making the want changes, if they change things in the comic books to reflect the movie universe, I think that's a huge mistake. Only because you have all the people who've been reading the comic books for so long that love these comic books, these characters, and how they are. I think to change that kind of, if they do it to follow the movies, I think that kind of negates even having to read the comic books altogether, because instead of reading the comic books, you can just watch the movies. Um, but it would be nice to see them do a line where they kind of tie into that, and they can still use the universe
Right.
of all the old comics and everything to pull story ideas and things from. Now, I think along with that storytelling, like you were saying, like, obviously in Feige we trust, and obviously he has a lot of great oversight on these films. I think one thing that would be even maybe better for him to do, because I'm sure he has people there that he kind of passes off duties onto, is I would look to somebody who's been kind of telling these stories to kind of help keep everything like one big cohesive story, like they kind of like they've done so far. And I would say like getting like maybe script supervisors like Christopher Marcus, or is it Stephen Marcus? Christopher McFeely? I always get their names mixed up there. Maybe it's Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely, to kind of oversee those things so they can keep everything more in a constant flow, to keep things going at a, I don't know, just a better story pace, because they've done a good job with the movies that they've written in the MCU so far.
Yeah, dude. I mean, like you're totally talking my language. I think that I've always thought it would be interesting to have a comic book line that was canon to the MCU. I mean, they kind of do with the way they do those preludes and stuff like that. But those don't. I mean, even though some of them have like tidbits that are very interesting, I agree that like so there's such a great opportunity to leverage Marvel comic or Marvel movies popularity to get more readers of Marvel comics. And I think that another thing, going back to sort of the all new, all different Marvel, one of the things that I always thought was sort of a mistake in that era was it's not so much that they did those changes to the characters the way they did and when they did. Well, I guess it is when they did, because it was this thing where the Avengers were bigger than ever. So many people saw that movie, and then you go into a comic book shop, and at the time the Avengers did not like look at all or remind you at all of what you just saw in the movie. So they changed the Avengers team like completely, and there was just no connective tissue between what you would go see in a comic book shop and what you would see on the screen. So I felt like that was sort of an underlining mistake that wasn't spoken about a lot, because people just kind of harped on like change and progressive things and SJW this and all that. The truth was, it was just poorly timed, I felt like. And I really felt like ultimately that could have even been like an Ike Perlmutter thing, where he was like, oh, well, screw you. We don't want to look like anything Feige, and we want to do our own thing and all this stuff. And I also do see your point, though, that if you just do that to Marvel Comics loses a lot of its like the magic. Part of the thing that makes comics so awesome is that you can go read stuff that you will not see in a movie either at all or anytime soon. And so comics gets to be this sandbox where you do some of the craziest stuff, the most fun stuff. You know what I mean? Like what's going on with the Thor run right now and him being the Herald of Galactus. Like I think back to the Thunderbolts run where Red Hulk got the symbiote and had the power of Ghost Rider and crazy stuff like that. And it's just like that's that kind of bombastic, crazy, fun comic book stuff that you can get at the shop that you can't get in an MCU movie. So it's like it's a weird balancing act, because you want there to be some connective tissue and you want to basically convert your Marvel watchers into your Marvel readers, but you also have to keep the integrity of what Marvel Comics is and what makes comics brilliant. But I'll kind of let you say sort of your final piece on this, and I know you got to go like start up your stream. So I'll bring you in and kind of just maybe speak on some of that stuff for a little bit, and then we'll let you go get started, and I'll carry the stream for a little bit, and then we'll send people over to your stream as well.
Yeah, and yeah, I think I agree. I mean, they do need to do something to bring readers in. Like, I'm probably one of the few who went from being more into the MCU to coming back into reading comic books. They definitely do need to, because they have the stories there. I think for me, one of the bigger issues is they need to tell more interesting stories. When I get done with the book, they should have me hooked in and ready to read the next issue. Just like they do with the movies.
Yeah.
They do this with the movies, and they make me want to watch. And I can't wait to watch the next movie. Their books don't go quite the same, and it's not that it's not because it's bad storytelling or anything like that. It's just that it needs to be a little bit more interesting. And I think a lot of that comes with kind of mixing up the flavor and things like that. But in a good way, without changing the characters, just trying to tell a new story. And obviously, not everybody is going to be happy with that because everybody, like I said, a lot of these classic characters have their their following of people who love these characters, and I totally get that. I'm looking forward to see what the future holds for the MCU, as well as even with the Batman thing, the Matt Reeves Batman, all of this stuff. My only hope with the films is just the same as with the comic books. I just want to see them get better. It's okay if they're not that great and I'm not happy with it, because that's a good thing, because that leaves room for improvement.
Yeah. Totally fair, brother. Totally fair. And man, thanks so much for being here, dude. If you guys obviously you should know this already, but Trinity is a very thoughtful guy, and he knows what he's talking about when it comes to comics. And so, look, there's a lot of voices out there talking about comics, and a lot of great voices. But I think Trinity is one that you should be paying attention to. So, Trinity, man, thanks so much for being here. I'll let you go so you can set up your stream, and we'll send people over to the Second Street Marvel stream after we end here. And yeah, man, thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Of course.
You all have a good one, and yeah, I'll probably be up, about 10 minutes after 8.
Sounds good, my friend. Yeah, I'll carry it. I'll carry the torch through, and when I see you pop live, we'll send people over. All right.
All right, have a good one.
All right. Take care, brother. Man, that was awesome. Trinity is a very thoughtful dude, man, and that's one of the things that I was talking about. I was talking about this. I believe we were talking about it on a Patreon stream, and we're talking about it just a little bit. He and I back and forth, but he's just a really thoughtful guy, and he knows what he's talking about when it comes to comics. I think that the voices like his need to be elevated. So if that was your first experience with Trinity, which I doubt, our fan base is sort of cross over quite a bit. But I definitely think that he's a man you should be checking out. So we'll wait a little bit for his stream to go live, and then we will send people over there. I am going to do Q&A. Unfortunately, we've had just a ton of technical difficulties today. Chet's fired. He's already gone. I sent him home. But I am still checking out the chat. So if you want to drop a question in, drop a question on in, man, and we'll do a little Q&A for like the next 10 minutes here. And then we'll go from there, okay? So, yeah, I'm paying attention to the chat. I'm sorry I don't have you up on the screen, guys, but I got you. We need this, like, every Wednesday. I would actually love, and I'm hoping that that's something we can work out, having Trinity on every Wednesday. Man, I was throwing crazy stuff at him. I'm throwing two-parters at him, you know what I mean? And he's brilliantly taking the two-parters and giving great answers, man. I mean, God, honestly, I'm impressed. So, yeah, I would love to have Trinity on every Wednesday. And hopefully, I'm going to reach out to Adam from Fanjecture. Adam, I see you in the chat. I'd love to have you on tomorrow, my friend. If you would like to come on to the stream tomorrow, that would be great. And we're going to start, we'll start bringing in just like a lot of guests, man. I want to get in touch with the Lonely Banter, too. I'd love to have the Lonely Banter on here, maybe on Friday. So, cool. Danny DeVito cast as Chet, 100%. I would do that. Owen says, what do you think of the Venom 2 title? I really don't like it. I think the title's really dumb. Let There Be Carnage? Come on, guys. Let There Be Carnage? Why don't you like the Venom 2 title? Because, like, Maximum Carnage, I think something much shorter would have been great. Let There Be Carnage. On the one hand, it sounds totally 90s comics. You know what I mean? On the one hand, it sounds totally like that nostalgic sort of feel, early days of Image. You know what I mean? Like, Liefeld craziness. Let there be carnage. On the one hand, it sounds really dope, but on the other hand, it's like I kind of feel like the Sony Marvel universe and what they're trying to do with those movies is that relative that has had problems in the past, right? Has a drinking problem. They show up drunk to a lot of family events. But I'm the member of the family. Like if we're all the family, I'm the member of the family. And I come in and I'm like, guys, look, it's okay. They've turned a new leaf. You know what I mean? They've turned a new leaf. Well, the title, Let There Be Carnage, would be like if that family member showed up with a shirt that says, I'm here to party. And you're like, oh, man, I just vouched for you. I just told everybody how you're doing things differently now. And now you're going to come in with a, like, I'm here to party shirt. Clearly, we're heading towards a bad thing. So I don't like it for that reason. I think it's pretty silly. Sounds like a good Conan quote. Let there be carnage. Indeed, Star Wars Santa. That's fair, but come on, my guy. It's not that bad, says Dingo Gaming. Look, all right. All right. Maybe it's not that bad. Let there be carnage. Maybe it's not that bad. I personally I had bad feelings. I had the bad feelings when I saw that. So, but I'm willing to admit that it's just maybe a personal thing. You know what I mean? Oh no, Fanjecture. Oh no. And then Null said, "Let there be carnage," and then there was carnage. It was carnage. Sam Shields says, "What type of Star Wars movie do you want next?" You know, that's an interesting question, and I appreciate the question. I actually do want them to do movies in the High Republic. I think that would be really cool. So I'd love to see that, either High Republic or Old Republic. But I think there's also an argument to be made that, like, maybe we need to just kind of go way into the future. You know what I mean? Maybe all this prequel business is not really what fans are feeling. So I wouldn't mind going into the future and seeing a film that sort of talks about the legacy of the Skywalkers, you know, the legacy of Rey, the potential for her to have those twins, and for the future stories to be told from Rey's children, which I still believe. I still believe in that theory, very much so. So thank you for the question. That's my answer. Also, side note, I am working with one of my old partners that I did a comic book with, and we are working on my Star Wars fan fiction. And so if you're a fan of Star Wars, if you're a fan of the Den of Nerds, I would say I'll have some stuff to show you guys in the next couple of weeks. And then I would say in the next couple of months, we will start putting the pages out, and they're going to be free. So the fan fiction will come out, and it will be free for everybody to check out. There will be a Patreon that we set up that if you want to support the creators, which is me and Steven, and possibly a letterer that I bring on as well. But if you want to support the creators of that project, you can support the creators, but we can't sell the work, right? We can't sell that work. We put it out for free online for everybody that wants to check it out. And then if you want to give us a couple of bucks a month, or, you know, more bucks a month so that your likeness could be a character in the fan fiction or something like that, we're still trying to figure that out. But my Star Wars fan fiction, I've been really into it from the writing perspective. A lot of my frustrations with the sequel trilogy and with Star Wars in general are sort of coming out in that fan fiction. I'm doing it the way I would like to do it. I'm excited. I'm excited for that, and I think people will dig it. They have registered licenses for High Republic games, toys, and shows. Yeah, man. I think it's coming. Flatbrush says, Josh, I missed the What If live stream the other night, but thanks for the shout out. I got another one for you. Dude, no problem, man. Thank you for the awesome What If. That was really cool. I felt like that was cool. And if you've got another one, hit me, bruh. I'm finna get out of here, my man. Be safe, brother. Here's $5 for the YouTube BS from yesterday. Dingo, thank you so much, man. I really do appreciate it. Yeah, YouTube is, well, frankly, whack as hell. You know what I mean? And we're trying to figure it out, though. That's part of why the multi-streaming is going on. We're trying to grow our audience on Facebook, on Twitch, and we're trying to also get that website going. I had a really good meeting. I wonder if Micah is in here right now. But Micah from Drum and Company and I sat down and had a really good meeting yesterday about SEO and the website. And so we will be putting into some practices what we're going to be doing there. I made a homebrew D&D system designed around being superheroes. I'm doing a Marvel campaign. Just started last week, but super excited. That sounds freaking amazing, Burke the Nerd. That sounds freaking amazing. Star Wars Santa says, with Chet fired, how are you going to get our outro clip? Oh, my God. That's a good point, man. It's a good point. I don't know what to do. Dave Fuller says, great stream as always. Josh loves hearing from Trinity as well. Hope you have a good rest of your day. Thanks, David. I appreciate the love, man. And by the way, I hope you guys are doing well, man. I had a really introspective moment yesterday. I was just kind of driving around, man, and I'm just like, dude, this is like, look, like we're all doing our best, and we're very adaptive animals, and I think we're gonna be okay. But make no mistake, this shit is crazy. This shit is crazy. This ain't normal, bros. This ain't normal. We're not supposed to be living like this. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of crazy shit going on right now. I would say as much as you can, you got to stay on top of it. Stay strong. I honestly think that you should be going full bore ahead right now. Just because of the opportunities that will be on the other side of this. I think right now is the time to be harvesting. But at the same time, man, like, I know people in my personal life that are struggling right now with different things. I know that I've struggled in the past couple of weeks. I've had really great days where I feel like everything's fine, and then other days where I'm like, holy shit, I can't believe what's happening. Wow. And so I just want to send some love, man. I want to send some love to everybody, and I hope you're doing well, and I hope you're figuring shit out. Russell, man, that is rough, dude. Friend of yours just passed away, in the ICU for 3 weeks on life support from COVID. Yeah, man. What do you even say? You know what I mean? Like, how do I, that's horrible. It's horrible, man. Yeah, man. David says, we got this, y'all. For sure, man. We got this. We'll get through it, man, together. You know what I mean? I've been thinking about you guys a lot, though. Yeah, I'm just really grateful. I'm grateful to be able to hang out with you guys every day. You know what I mean? And provide some cool content, keep your mind off shit, and just do what we can, man. Yeah, take care, brother. Take care, man. Take care. Do you think that they will do What If for the shows? I'll say this, XR Coon. I'm actually really interested and excited to see what Marvel does with What If past its first season. I do actually hope that they continue to do it. And potentially, yeah, they could do the Disney Plus shows. Jonathan Bremer says, stay safe and stay healthy, Josh. Love the channel, and you help me get through at work, home, and otherwise. I'm very happy to do that for you, man. I'm glad you like the content, and I hope you're staying safe and healthy as well. Appreciate you, man. Venom 2020 was carnage. That's actually not bad, Owen. That's not bad. Hey, I think I hear my man Trinity going on. All right, let's drop this link. Let's drop this link, my friends. Hope you're doing well. Renee, thank you so much for the super chat, brother. I appreciate the love, man. Hope you're doing well, too. Thanks for the great content. Let's make Trinity a regular. Yeah, man, we got to. We've got to. Every Wednesday, I want to have him on. And then once comics get back in, man, like, he can help us out with our comic segment each week. You know what I mean? So that's the link right there. I just posted it, folks. Go on over, see what Trinity is talking about today over on his stream. We'll be back at it later today. Oh, and just a little tease for all of you still in here. I've got a pretty interesting Marvel video coming out later today about the Russo brothers and about Secret Wars. I think you're going to really like it. But go on over and give Trinity some love and support. And I'll see you guys later today in that video, and I will see you tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, the morning stream. The show must go on. And now, as I always say, I hope you're having an awesome and a nerdy day, and I will see you in the next video.